What's up guys, I'm Jack, and Daisy's napping again so I don't want to wake her up, and welcome to another video. Maybe I'll just add a pre-recorded meow in there at some point. Anyway, welcome. Today we are going to be doing a guard counter only challenge throughout the Shadow Realm. The rules are pretty simple. We just need to defeat every remembrance boss using only guard counters and riposts. The only other rule is I'm not using any summons throughout my time in the Shadow Realm. So, let's just get right into it. So for most of this, I will just be using the deflecting hard tier rather than a shield to guard counter. That just makes this more fun. Anyway, our first attempt at the Divine Beast dancing line didn't really go too well. Turns out the giant bosses in this game are kind of hard to guard counter on. So this guy actually gave me a bit of trouble. I actually spent quite a few attempts either dying or using my memory of grace to get out of the arena, or just force quitting out when I got grabbed. I don't know how many attempts in total, but I would guess around 8 to 10, which is a lot for the Divine Beast dancing line. This is one of the easier bosses in the DLC. Though we are on New Game Plus 4, 5, I think, so they do a lot of damage to us. But thankfully, since we are on such a late new game, we are a pretty high level ourselves, and we can do a lot of damage in return, especially with all of the talismans that either buff our guard counters or our two-handed damage. Plus, we have some pretty chunky armor on, so we're not taking too much damage from these guys. Anyway, there were a few attacks from the Divine Beast dancing line that it did in every single one of its phases that we could guard counter, like the one I just did there. So the main part of this fight was just running away from the ranged attacks that I couldn't guard counter. Before too long, we did manage to get a poise break and riposte, which does great damage. The Dragon Hunter's great katana also inflicts bleed, which is just awesome. And again, after about 8 attempts, we were able to get the Divine Beast dancing lion low, break its poise, and then well, I meant to riposte there, but instead I hit it with 3 light attacks, which ended the run. Okay, I think we just lost. Well, we're gonna pretend like we didn't see that. One riposte would have taken him down anyway, it's not my fault. And we're gonna continue the run as if nothing just happened. So next up, we are gonna fight Rellana. Rellana. And for this one, I'm bringing in the Serpent Bone Katana. So this katana inflicts deadly poison, which is a pretty good status effect, and with the help of the deadly poison plus our guard counters and riposte, we were able to get Rellana pretty low on our first attempt before getting caught in a combo and dying. And that's okay though, Rellana is a great boss to guard counter, so I really don't mind giving this a second attempt. Really, any boss with a sword in the DLC is pretty good for this type of fight. Radahn and Melania in the base game are also really good for the deflecting hard tier, some of my favorite bosses in the game. Before long, we can get a poise break and riposte, and a couple more hits will take Rellana into phase 2. Also, I love how goofy my character looks with this armor set. It's so funny. Just a crazy, giant, stupid head. Anyway, I'm gonna put this up front. If you guys want to subscribe, that would be amazing. I am so close to 10,000 subscribers, so that would be such a great milestone to hit. And I'm kind of hoping that the YouTube algorithm snowballs a little bit after we get to 10K. So yeah, that would be really, really nice of you. But if not, that's totally fine. Your viewership is always enough for me. Anyway, we get a couple more guard counters and riposts off on Rellana, and before she can enter phase 2, she's almost dead. Oh. Well, I accidentally just heavy attacked her, so we're gonna give this a third attempt. Attempt number 3 goes even better until we get caught up in a combo and get very, very close to death. Yeah, we're probably 1 HP right there, barely managed to eke out a victory right here, and I am glad for it because even though I love this fight, I was getting kind of bored. Rellana down, and so far this isn't too difficult of a challenge. That being said, there are a couple of bosses in this run that give us way too much trouble. The golden hippopotamus here was not one of them, though he was annoying nonetheless. No, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you 3 guesses. So the first option would be Bayle, the second one would be Bayle, the third one would be Bayle, and the fourth one would also be Bayle. So yeah, out of those 4, which one do you think it was? Yeah, no, he was ridiculous. Bayle does not have many moves that you can guard counter, and the ones that you can even get a hit off, well, he can still hit you. So yeah, I'm not going to spoil too much. I basically just told you the whole thing, but that fight was just the worst. And you'll see more about that later. For now though, I wanted to get inside the Shadow Keep, so we did defeat the Golden Hippopotamus, and grab the side of grace in there before heading towards the Cerulean coast. I figured it was about time to take out the Putrescent Knight, so we grabbed all the graces on the way, and ran through the deep stone crypt in order to find our way to the boss arena. Along the way we do find these worm dudes, and you can guard counter their attacks, and it does a pretty good amount of damage, even, you know, taking my misses into consideration. But we made it past without any problems. For once we didn't die anywhere on the way, and the Putrescent Knight really wasn't that bad. I thought he'd be a lot worse considering, you know, he likes to run around on his horse, and maybe the guard counters would be difficult to hit, but it really wasn't as bad as I thought. It only took a few guard counters from our Serpent Hunter in order to get a poise break and riposte, which of course just does massive damage. And after those 3 hits and ripostes, I mean, he was already down to about half health. Maybe a third, but still. It was just playing a game of dodging and then waiting for the attacks that we can guard counter, which he does use fairly frequently as long as we don't, you know, mistime everything. And this fight ended up being over fairly quickly. And it turns out you can totally guard counter his blue fiery attacks, which was pretty helpful for a second phase. It still gives you frostbite damage, so you don't want to let that build up too much, but it was fine. Putrescent Knight down. We're going to move on to Romina next just because I want her boss weapon. So I just sprint through the Ruins of Ra as quickly as I possibly can. Am I saying that right, by the way? Is it Ra? Rao? Ra? Anyway, we're basically speedrunning this challenge because I'm going to be gone for the next 2 weeks. Maybe like 3 weeks, honestly. I'll go into more detail in a bit, but Romina was also rough. She was probably the second most difficult boss in this run. And that's because her hitbox is so janky. I kind of wish that I tried to use this guard counter strategy without the lock-on. I feel like that might have been a bit more consistent for hitting her, but maybe not. It's deceiving because there are so many attacks from Romina that we can very easily guard counter, but those counters don't always hit her. So even though there are a lot of attack opportunities, we don't deal that much damage. So we actually ended up either resetting or dying over a dozen times. What should be a relatively easy boss fight turned out to be, again, the second most difficult. And I was using a fire weapon too, so we did deal some pretty decent damage when we did hit her, but again, that didn't happen often, and since this fight was taking so long, yeah, I just kept dying over and over again. Also, I just want to mention this now. I'm sure you've noticed, maybe, possibly, that I swapped the uploading time to Monday nights rather than Saturday mornings. I find that literally every other YouTuber uploads on Saturday morning, so there's probably less of a chance of people actually choosing to watch my videos as a smaller YouTuber, and then forgetting about them by the time Monday comes anyway, so we'll see if this ends up being a good choice or a bad choice, but we're going to try for a few weeks and see how it goes. I also am uploading YouTube Shorts, and please don't feel like you have to watch those. They're just short clips from all of my boss fights. It's just to please the YouTube algorithm, so yeah, don't feel like you have to watch those. Anyway, when we finally did get a good run against Romina, we did manage to get a poise break and riposte, which did massive damage to her. But just because we're close to beating her doesn't mean the fight's over yet. And I say that because there's always the chance that I will mess up and accidentally hit her with a light or heavy attack rather than a guard counter, and have to reset and do another 10 runs. So we just gotta be careful of that. I do get another guard counter right here with her big tail whip attack, and that ends up taking her down to 1-shot range. So we're looking pretty good. Well, eventually I do manage to get that last guard counter off and beat Romina. So that's good. I'm glad to be done with this boss, and now we have her weapon, which inflicts Scarlet Rot buildup, so that might be helpful for some future bosses like Radahn. Next, I want to head up to the Shadow Keep to get to the Sunflowers and Gaius, and Gaius was not a very difficult fight. Throughout my year fighting this guy, I've learned that guard counters are one of the most consistent ways to beat this boss battle. So I already knew which attacks I should guard counter and which ones I should dodge, which made this fight a lot easier. In fact, we managed to beat it on our first attempt, which you're seeing right here. And it really only takes a few guard counters to get a poise break in the first place, so that's just great. Another set of guard counters leads to another poise break, and that'll take us right into phase 2. And luckily enough, we even managed to Scarlet Rot him right before phase 2 begins, so he's going to be taking a lot of extra damage. And at this point, if we just let the Rot do its thing, that'll probably take out maybe a quarter of his health. But rather than play it patient and safe, we go in for attacks and take him down even lower. And we've even barely taken any damage throughout this entire fight so far, still having 10 of our healing flasks. And I do appreciate the straightforward nature of this challenge too. It's nice to just have all of my stats and flasks just for healing and damage reduction and I guess even extra damage, so it's nice. Don't have to worry about magic or FP. Anyway, Gaius is down, we're on to the Sunflowers next, and these guys gave us a bit of trouble too. Not nearly as bad as Romina, I'd say probably on the same level as the Divine Beast Dancing Lion, which was harder than I thought it would be, but still not too ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, I'll be gone for like 3 weeks, so this week my buddy and his girlfriend are coming to visit me in Connecticut. I'm staying with my parents right now. And we're gonna go on some adventures, so I'm gonna try to get this video and one more done by tonight, so I'll have those ready for the next 2 weeks. But after that, my buddy and I are gonna be doing our road trip out west, where I am moving to Washington State. And we're probably gonna take a week to a week and a half to do this entire drive, so I imagine after today, I won't be doing YouTube stuff for like 3 weeks, so yeah. Anyway, after we figured out which attacks that we could actually guard counter on these Scadutree Avatars, this became a very easy fight, just because of how much damage we do with each hit, and we are using the Torch Pole, which does deceptively low fire damage, but still enough to take these guys down. So after about 3 or 4 attempts, the Scadutree Avatar was well within our grasp. And do you guys know, is it 3 different avatars, or is it just one that keeps respawning? I honestly have no idea, and I never thought to ask that question before now. Anyway, after this big holy explosion attack, we do get the chance to do some extra damage right here, and it would be so easy to finish this fight right now, but we can't. So we have to wait for an attack opportunity, which will hopefully come soon. And it took about a minute of us running around dodging before that opportunity came, but we did manage to get it and finish the fight before heading to Messmer next. And for Messmer, I brought the brick hammer with me just because that's a pretty good weapon in general, one of my favorite hammers. I figure we might as well get some use out of it while we can. I also put the Shriek of Sorrow Ash of War on it, and what that does is when you use it, it increases your damage based on how low your health is. So that's pretty neat. You might get some good use out of it, hopefully. So Messmer does have a lot of attacks that we can guard counter, which is super helpful, and he is available to be hit by those most of the time. At least in the first phase. The second phase, it gets a bit more finicky and unreliable, but that's okay. It did take a second for me to get back in the flow of things. I haven't played this game in like weeks, so hopping back into these boss fights was definitely hit or miss. It didn't take too long for me to figure out which attacks were good to guard counter though. And since our hammer just does such high base damage, we were able to get him into a second phase relatively quickly. And then instantly died. So, yeah. Alright, so attempt number 2 did go a bit better, and I decided to swap over to the Queen Rot Spear for this fight just because I thought the holy damage might be nice, and the extra reach from the spear would be better for guard countering. And in the second phase, Messmer is actually weak to holy damage, so that makes it even better. So overall, I think it was a good swap. Had we given it another couple of tries with the hammer, I'm sure we would have been able to defeat this guy. I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm sure we would have been able to beat this guy with the hammer if we gave it some more tries, but I think the spear overall is a better option for this fight. In fact, the first time I ever beat Messmer was with the spear as well. Not this one, but still. So yeah, for most of Messmer's second phase, he spends it as a giant snake, which obviously is very difficult to guard counter, so we really are just running around and waiting for a good attack opportunity. And the best one that he gives us is when he turns into a little torpedo and charges at us in his non-snake form, but that doesn't happen too often. Yeah, this attack right here. What's crazy is that there's about 4 minutes of footage in between that attack and then this right here. So it was literally just me running around for 4 minutes, and I only hit him like once or twice. And there's a chance that I could have gotten some guard counters off during his big snake attacks too, but I was too scared to try, so we'll never know. Alright, 2 attempts really wasn't that bad, so we're gonna head to the Lord of Frenzied Flame next, and I'm breaking the rules just for this boss fight because, I mean, come on. Yeah, I love doing that to that poor stupid idiot. So anyway, we gotta make our way through the Abyssal Woods, dodging any... God, I forgot what these guys are called. Oh, I don't know. I'll never remember and I'm too lazy to look it up. So dodging these guys and making our way to the Lord of Frenzied Flame, which is a very fun fight and pretty great for guard counters. Especially due to his lack of poise, which allows us to get riposts off pretty frequently. And I just wanted to show off the power of a bleed guard counter build, so that's why I brought the Dragon Hunter's Katana in for this fight. And yeah, we just do so much damage to him in such little time. It's great. And I really wish I had more to say about this fight other than it's just stupid easy. But I don't. I just don't. I mean, we can even guard counter his Holy Thorn grab attack thing. So yeah, that just makes this fight ridiculous. So yeah, easy dubs. Now we just gotta make our way up to Jagged Peak to fight Bayle. And I got the Dragon King's Crag Blade for this fight just because it does extra damage to ancient dragons. I don't know if that applies to Bayle, but I thought it would be a good weapon for the fight regardless, so that's what we're bringing. Okay, so as I alluded to earlier on in this run, this fight was just ridiculous. So I had to use an actual shield for the guard counters here just because using a weapon in the deflecting hard tier was very difficult, and there are just so few safe guard counter opportunities in this fight. He has maybe like 2 attacks where you can safely and consistently hit him with a guard counter, and he doesn't use them very frequently. So this was extremely stressful, and I spent multiple hours dying over and over again. And it didn't help that every single attempt, especially the ones where I got further into the fight, it just took a very long time, like 10 to 15 minute boss fights where I lose at the end. So I was not in the best of spirits fighting this guy. And yeah, as you guys can see in the background footage, most of my guard counters either don't hit, or when they do hit, I get hit back immediately afterwards. So it's not a fight meant for guard counters, which is totally okay. Not every fight should be. And I'm gonna let this gameplay footage of the first phase just play in the background for a minute. Go ahead and skip to the timestamp on screen if you don't want to see this random background footage. I just don't have anything else to say about this. Yeah, I just wanted you guys to experience how slow and boring the first phase was. And the second phase, though more exciting, wasn't much better. In fact, it was significantly worse, because those guard counter opportunities that came maybe once every 2 minutes now came once every 5-ish minutes, and there was only one attack where I could safely hit him and not get hit back, and that just took forever to come. So to say this fight was rough is an understatement. The only saving grace about this fight is the fact that the Dragon King's Cragblade does a very respectable amount of damage with every hit, so that's good at least. And throughout these 15-20 minute long fights, I did manage to get him pretty low on multiple occasions, but even though I got him low, I would die right at the end due to me running out of healing items. This was one of my better runs where I managed to save 5 healing items for the end, so that was pretty sweet, but most of the time, when I got him halfway through his second phase, I was down to 1 or 0 healing items, and that would be an instant defeat. Anyway, this phase did go really well though. Again, he has barely any health left, and I have 5 healing flasks, so I really just need 2 to 3 more guard counters, and this fight's gonna be over, finally, after quite literally hours. So after he did that big jump and slam attack, that always gives us an opportunity to hit him, but we always get hit, so I thought that it was totally worth it in this case because of all of my healing, and took the hit. This actually leaves him at 1-shot range, so we're just waiting for our chance, and we finally got it. Bayle the Dread has been taken care of after so long, and it was so nice to be done with that fight, and that just leaves Metyr and Radahn. So we get to take a break from boss fighting and do a quick side quest, which I actually find more annoying than fun, but that's totally fine. I grabbed the Giant Crusher and used that to absolutely decimate the Sword Hand of Night, and then accidentally hit Metyr with a heavy attack right at the end of our first attempt. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and let these guys take us down so that we can respawn at the Stake of Marika and try this again. Our first try victory would have been so nice. It would have been so nice. It's fine though. Everything's fine. So just due to the insanely high base damage of the Giant Crusher, every hit that we do against Metyr just deals a tremendous amount of damage. So even though we didn't get it on our first try, this was still a very quick boss fight, which I was very, very grateful for. I also swapped the Shriek of Sorrow Ash of War onto the Giant Crusher just for some added damage, which is always nice. So this ended up being a very quick and easy boss fight. Also, I apologize for the lack of a cooking section in these past 2 videos. I just haven't had a chance to with the move and all, so all that's left is Radahn, so we take out these 3 musketeers very easily. Well, not easily, I actually almost died at the end, but we take them out on our first try, and then fight Radahn. So my first plan was to use Romina's boss weapon to Scarlet Rot Radahn, but even though we got him down to about the second phase, we still didn't get a rot off. I guess we just don't hit him quick enough with this guard counter only challenge, and we ended up dying anyway, so I decided to swap back to the Giant Crusher just for the high base damage. I also really didn't want to have to use a shield during this fight, so I wanted the weapon that did the highest damage so that we would get the deflecting hard tier for as long as we possibly could during this fight. I don't know if that made any sense to you guys, but it makes perfect sense to me. So, this was nice. I genuinely love the Radahn fight. It's one of my favorite fights in the game. And even though I'd taken a pretty significant break from Elden Ring, I still felt really good hopping back into this fight. So, I don't really have too much to say about it, because, well, at this point, it's relatively easy. At least the first phase, you can guard counter most of his attacks, which is just so nice. And the second phase, there are a handful of attacks that you can guard counter, and he does them quite frequently. So this is a very satisfying fight, at least to me. I know a lot of people had trouble with it, and I did too when I first started playing this DLC. In fact, I did a Frenzied Flame only challenge many months ago, and at the end, I couldn't even beat Radahn, even though I had put about 10 hours of attempts into fighting him. So, yeah, This is a tough boss fight. No doubt about that. But a good one. In my opinion, at least. So before I let you guys enjoy the rest of this boss fight without my constant chattering, I just want to say thank you to all of my members, which that is Serena Harvey. Thank you for joining, by the way. That really does mean the world to me. We have Mary, we have Beer, and we have Micah. I genuinely do love you guys. Like, you are always the best, and I love hearing from you guys too in the comments. And speaking of comments, I do just want to thank everybody who comments every week too. I just love hearing from you all. So Dark Flames, Monius, Bem, you guys are great. And there are others as well. I just can't think of everybody off the top of my head. Just know that I genuinely appreciate you guys. So thanks for sticking around and watching these dumb little YouTube videos, and I really hope you guys enjoy them. Hopefully once I'm settled down in Washington, I will be able to continue the longer challenge runs. I know this one's a bit short, but I'm also a bit short on time. Turns out there's a lot to do when you move. Like, a lot. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy the rest of this fight. Well, one final guard counter takes Radahn down, ending this fight once and for all. So, thanks again for watching. I know I already said that, but I do appreciate it. And if you guys have any other ideas for challenges when I get back from my move, please let me know and I will get to it. I have a little list, so we'll see what's next. Anyway, hope you guys have a good one. Peace.